2-3 दिन पहला अनाउंसमेंट करो, ਵੱਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ 'ਚ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਰੱਖ ਲਓ, ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਦੇ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਕਰ ਦਿਓ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਇਸ ਦਰਵਾਜ਼ੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਇਸ ਸੱਥ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਇਸ ਪਿੱਪਲ ਦੇ ਥੱਲੇ ਅਫਸਰ ਆਉਣਗੇ ਭਾਈ, ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਕੰਮ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਜਾਓ। ਉਹ ਲੋਕ ਉੱਥੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਲੋਕ ਉੱਥੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰਮਾਣ ਪੱਤਰ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ ਹੈ, ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਸਰਟੀਫਿਕੇਟ ਲੈਣਾ ਹੈ, ਕੰਪਿਊਟਰ ਸਾਰਾ ਆਫਿਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਤਾਂ ਆਫਿਸ ਹੀ ਐਡਾ ਕੁ ਰਹਿ ਗਿਆ ਸਰ, ਡੀਸੀ ਦਾ ਆਫਿਸ ਵੀ ਐਡਾ ਕੁ ਰਹਿ ਗਿਆ, ਤਹਿਸੀਲਦਾਰ ਦਾ ਆਫਿਸ ਵੀ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਰਹਿ ਗਿਆ, ਦੋ ਕੰਪਿਊਟਰਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੰਮ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਲੋਕ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਆਧਾਰ ਲਿੰਕ ਕਰਾਉਣਾ। ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਧਾਰ ਲਿੰਕ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਸਾਡੇ ਨੂੰ, ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਘੱਟ ਪੜ੍ਹੇ ਲਿਖੇ ਨੇ, ਕਿ ਆਧਾਰ ਨਾਲ ਕੀ ਕੀ ਲਿੰਕ ਕਰਾਉਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ। ਜਦੋਂ ਬੈਂਕ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਤਾਂ ਖਾਤਾ ਆਧਾਰ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੁੜਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ, ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਪੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਲੈਣ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਖਾਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੁੜਿਆ। ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤਹਿਸੀਲਦਾਰ ਤੇ ਡਿਪਟੀ ਕਮਿਸ਼ਨਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ, ਹਫ਼ਤੇ 'ਚੋਂ ਘੱਟੋ ਘੱਟ 2 ਦਿਨ ਦਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਟਾਰਗੇਟ ਰੱਖਿਆ। ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਡੀਸੀਜ਼ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ 'ਚ ਗਏ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਇੰਨੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੱਲ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ, ਔਰ ਨਾਲ ਐਮਐਲਏ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਤੇ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਕਾਗਜ਼ ਘੱਟ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਐਮਐਲਏ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਐਮਐਲਏ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਪਰਸੋਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਾਗਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੋ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਇੱਕ ਸਮਾਨ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਆਹੀ ਡਿਊਟੀ ਅਸਲ 'ਚ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਸਰਵੈਂਟ ਜੋ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ, ਆਹੀ ਡਿਊਟੀ ਐਮਐਲਏ ਦੀ ਹੈ, ਆਹੀ ਡਿਊਟੀ ਬਿਊਰੋਕਰੈਟਸ ਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਕੋਲੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰੋ। ਜਦੋਂ ਨਵੇਂ ਡਿਪਟੀ ਕਮਿਸ਼ਨਰ, ਨਵੇਂ ਆਈਐਸ ਮੁੰਡੇ, ਨਵੇਂ ਆਈਪੀਐਸ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚੁਣੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਮੁੰਡੇ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ, ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਧਾ ਕੋਈ ਐਸਐਸਪੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਾਉਂਦਾ, ਸਿੱਧੇ ਹੀ ਉਹ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਪੋਸਟ ਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਡਿਊਟੀਆਂ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ 'ਚ ਲੱਗ। ਵੋਟਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੋਠੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਛੱਡਦੇ, ਢਾਣੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਛੱਡਦੇ, ਡੋਰ ਟੂ ਡੋਰ ਵੀ ਨੌਕ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਰੈਲੀਆਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇੱਕ ਪਿੰਡ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਕਵੇ ਇੱਧਰਲੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਪਰਲੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਕਰ ਜਾਓ ਜੀ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿੱਤ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਦੋਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਆ ਜਾਓ। ਸਰ ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਨਹੀਂ, ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਘਰ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਵਾਂਗੇ, ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਘਰ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਵਾਂਗੇ। ਕਿਉਂ ਆ ਜਾਣ ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ? ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਆਉਣਾ ਸੌਖਾ ਪਿਆ ਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦਿਹਾੜੀਦਾਰ ਹੈ, ਹੈਂਡ ਟੂ ਮਾਊਥ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਆਉਣ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਟੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੱਕੂਗੀ। ਆਊਗਾ ਕਿਵੇਂ? ਉਹ ਬੱਸਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਿਰਾਇਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ, ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਬੱਸ ਗੱਡੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ 5-7 ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ, ਕਿੰਨਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਖਰਚਾ ਜੀ। ਕਿਉਂ? ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੰਮ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਫੋਨ 'ਤੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋਣ ਜਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਟੈਕਨੋਲੋਜੀ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਾਬਕ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋਣ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਗੇੜੇ ਮਰਵਾਈਏ? ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ। ਸਾਡੇ ਐਮਐਲਏਜ਼ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਹਰ ਰੋਜ਼ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਜੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਮੌਕੇ 'ਤੇ ਹੱਲ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਅਫਸਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ ਕਰਾਇਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਔਰ ਮੈਂ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਸਨ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਮਾਮਲੇ 'ਚ ਕਿ ਹਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਨਿਕਲਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਬਾਹਰ। ਵੈਸੇ ਵੀ ਸਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਏਸੀ ਕਮਰਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾ ਉਹੀ ਹਵਾ ਰੋਟੇਟ ਹੋਈ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹੀ ਆਕਸੀਜਨ। ਸੋ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ 'ਚ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹੀ ਆਕਸੀਜਨ ਵੀ ਮਿਲੇ ਅਫਸਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ, ਕਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਡੀਸੀ ਦੇਖੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਸਾਰੀ ਉਮਰ ਵੀ ਡੀਸੀ ਨੇੜਿਓਂ ਦੇਖ ਲਿਆ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਡੀਸੀ ਇਹ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਨਾਮ ਹੀ ਸੁਣੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਇਕੱਲੇ। ਸੋ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਰ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਈ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਲਾਈਨ 'ਚ ਲੱਗ ਕੇ, ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਲਾਈਨ 'ਚ ਲੱਗ ਕੇ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਪਾਤੀਆਂ, ਮੈਂ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਲਾਈਨ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਰਾਸ਼ਨ ਕਾਰਡ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਵੀ ਲਾਈਨ 'ਚ ਖੜ੍ਹੇ ਨੇ, ਵਿਧਵਾ ਪੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਸਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਡੋਰ ਟੂ ਡੋਰ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਰਾਸ਼ਨ ਕਾਰਡ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰਾਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਡੋਰ ਟੂ ਡੋਰ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ। ਔਰ ਬੁਢਾਪਾ ਪੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਸਾਡੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਕਮਾਲ ਦੀ ਸਕੀਮ ਹੈ। ਬੁਢਾਪਾ ਪੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਜੀ, 2 ਜਾਣੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਘਰੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ, ਉਹਦੀ ਲਿਸਟ ਹੋਊਗੀ ਇੱਕ ਬੈਂਕ ਵੱਲੋਂ, ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਬਾਇਓਮੀਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਵਾਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਯੰਤਰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਅੰਗੂਠਾ ਲਵਾਇਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਤੇ ਉਹ ਘਰ ਜਾਣਗੇ। ਘਰੇ ਬੇਬੇ ਬਾਪੂ ਬੈਠੇ ਨੇ, ਮੰਜੇ ਤੇ ਪਏ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਅੰਗੂਠਾ ਲਵਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਪੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੱਥ 'ਚ ਫੜਾਤੀ ਜਾਊਗੀ। ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਸਮੱਸਿਆ ਹੱਲ ਹੋਊਗੀ। ਸਰ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਰੇ ਇੱਕੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਪੰਜੇ ਉਂਗਲਾਂ ਇੱਕੋ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ। ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਪੁੱਤਰ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, ਸਰਵਣ ਪੁੱਤ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਾਂ ਪਿਓ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਕਈ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸ਼ਿਕਾਇਤਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਬੇਬੇ ਬਾਪੂ ਤੋਂ ਅੰਗੂਠਾ ਲਵਾ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਪੈਨਸ਼ਨ ਕਢਾ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸਮੱਸਿਆ ਉਦੋਂ ਹੱਲ ਹੋਊਗੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ। ਬੇਬੇ ਬਾਪੂ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਅਗਲੇ ਖੱਬੇ ਹੱਥ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਆਪਦੇ ਬੇਟੇ ਨੂੰ ਫੜਾ ਦੇਣ, ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਚੱਕਰ ਨਹੀਂ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲਾਭਪਾਤਰੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਪੈਸੇ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ। ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਰੇਗਾ 'ਚ ਹੈ, ਕੱਚੇ ਰਜਿਸਟਰਾਂ ਤੇ ਅੰਗੂਠਾ ਲਵਾ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਦਿਹਾੜੀ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਲੈ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜੀ, ਕੰਮ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਕੀ 240-41 ਪਿੱਛੇ ਕੋਈ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਚਵਾਰੇ ਛੱਤ ਲੈਣਗੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਛੋਟੀਆਂ ਛੋਟੀਆਂ ਗਰੀਬਾਂ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੈਲਪਫੁਲ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਕਿ ਬਾਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਆਹ ਹੁਣ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਵਾਲੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ ਜੀ ਆਮ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਆਮ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਐਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਆਹ ਪੁੱਛਿਓ, ਆਮ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ ਆਮ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਐਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਮੈਂ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਸਰ, ਜੇ ਕਦੇ ਆਮ ਵਿਅਕਤੀਆਂ ਕੋਲ ਗਏ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਹਾਲ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜੀ? ਇਹ ਆਮ ਵਿਅਕਤੀਆਂ ਕੋਲ ਤਾਂ ਗਏ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਦੇ, ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਖਾਸ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੇ ਜੀ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਦਰਵਾਜ਼ੇ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਖੋਲ੍ਹੇ ਮਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੇ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਕੁੰਡੇ ਲਾ ਲਏ, ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਾਹਰੋਂ ਕੁੰਡੇ ਲਾਤੇ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਨਿਕਲਿਓ ਨਾ ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਾਹਰ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਕੀ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਨੇ ਜੀ? ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਨੂੰ, 1885 ਚ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋਈ, 1885 ਚ। ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀ ਰਾਜਧਾਨੀ ਚ ਪਿਛਲੀਆਂ 2 ਟਰਮਾਂ ਚ 0 MLA 0 MP। ਦਿੱਲੀ ਚ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀ ਰਾਜਧਾਨੀ ਚ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਹਾਲਤ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਏਰੀਏ 'ਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਰਤਾ ਧਰਤਾ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਸਾਰੇ ਹਾਈ ਕਮਾਂਡ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਏਰੀਏ ਦਾ MLA ਕੌਣ ਹੈ? ਅਰਵਿੰਦ ਕੇਜਰੀਵਾਲ, ਨਵੀਂ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਵਿਧਾਨ ਸਭਾ। ਚਲੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਹੋਈ ਵੋਟ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਕੀ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਾਲੀ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੰਮ ਕੁਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਨੌਕਰ, ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵੀ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਰਲੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਆਪਸ 'ਚ ਹੀ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੁਕਸ ਕੱਢਦੇ ਨੇ, ਸਰ ਅਬਦੁਲ ਕਲਾਮ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਹੋਏ ਚੰਗੇ ਕੰਮ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਨੁੱਕਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਰ ਲੈਣ ਦਿਓ। ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਹੋਏ ਚੰਗੇ ਕੰਮ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਨੁੱਕਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਰ ਲੈਣ ਦਿਓ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸ਼ੱਕ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਸੋਨੇ ਦੀ ਸ਼ੁੱਧਤਾ ਤੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਕੋਲੇ ਦੀ ਕਾਲਖ ਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜੀ। ਕਰੀ ਜਾਣ ਦਿਓ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ। ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪਤਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਸੋਨੇ ਤੋਂ ਗੱਲ ਯਾਦ ਆ ਗਈ ਸਪੀਕਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੁੱਟਿਆ 200 ਸਾਲ। ਚਲੋ ਤਾਂ ਲੁੱਟਣੀ ਆਏ ਸੀ ਈਸਟ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਰਾਹੀਂ। ਦੁੱਖ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਹੋਰ ਹੈ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦਾ। ਬਾਜ਼ਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੋਨੇ ਤੇ ਲੋਹੇ ਦੀ ਦੁਕਾਨ ਆਮੋ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਸੀ ਜੀ। ਤਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਸੋਨਾ ਤੇ ਲੋਹਾ ਆਪਸ 'ਚ ਮਿਲੇ। ਸੋਨੇ ਨੇ ਲੋਹੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ, ਯਾਰ ਥੋੜਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਵੀ ਵੱਜਦਾ, ਥੋੜਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਵੀ ਵੱਜਦਾ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਤੂੰ ਕਦੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਦੁਕਾਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਸੁਣੀ ਹੈ? ਸੋਨਾ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਵੀ ਵੱਜਦਾ ਲੋਹਿਆ, ਥੋੜਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਵੀ ਵੱਜਦਾ, ਪਰ ਮੇਰੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਕਦੇ ਦੁਕਾਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਸੁਣੀ ਹੈ? तेरी आवाज यार सारे बाजार सुनती होंगी है, इन्नी चीखा क्यों मारता हूं तू?
वाह, अब आ रहे हो इंस्पेक्शन के लिए? 3 घंटे पहले बोला था कि मैम बस 2 मिनट में पहुंच रहा हूँ। इस कार इंश्योरेंस के चक्कर में पूरा दिन वेस्ट। चलो अभी प्लीज चेक करो।
मैडम मैं प्लम्बर हूँ।
प्लम्बर आया क्या? आने दे।
सर कहाँ हो?
कार इंश्योरेंस चाहिए विदाउट वेटिंग फॉर इंस्पेक्शन? अपलोड फोटो, रिन्यू इंस्टेंटली ऑन फोन पे। टेंशन फ्री इंश्योरेंस।
नहीं उदों होंदी है जो सिलाई शहीद की विधवा नूं सिलाई मशीन वंडण वाले साडे ते सवाल करते हैं। दसो पहलां की हुंदा सी सिलाई मशीन। सो इन्हां नूं की पता जी, असीं पिंडां चों निकले होए हां, सानूं पता है साडा कोई ना कोई रिश्तेदार फौज च है, कोई ना कोई रिश्तेदार साडा पुलिस च है, कि ड्यूटियां किन्नियां औखियां ने। सो ये हुण जिवें इन्हां ने देखिया कि इहदा आम आदमी पार्टी दा देश च वधदी जांदी है। चलो भी जिन्हें हस्पताल बनाए ने, जिन्हें दिल्ली दे विच इलाज सस्ता करता, बिल्कुल फ्री करता, पैरासीटामोल की गोली तो लैके 40-40 लाख के टैसट ऑपरेशन फ्री करते, मुहल्ला क्लीनिक कामयाब हो जाते हैं। किने बनाए ने जी? सतिंदर जैन ने। चलो अंदर करो नूं, पा लो तो कोई केस। चलो भी स्कूलों की वारी, ये कौन है भी जिहड़ा दिल्ली के बच्चों नूं पढ़ाई जाता है? दिल्ली के बच्चे तो IIT करी जाते हैं, रिक्शे वालों के मजदूरों के बच्चे नीट कर रहे हैं, हैं जी, वो तो MBBS कर रहे हैं। ये कौन है जिहड़ा जवाकां नूं सिक्ख्यत करी जाता है? ये कौन है ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੇ ਯੂਥ ਨੂੰ ਪੜਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ? ਭਾਈ ਮਨੀਸ਼ ਸਿਸੋਦੀਆ ਹੈ, ਚਲੋ ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਜੇਲ੍ਹ 'ਚ ਦਿਓ ਉਹਨੂੰ। ਇਹ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਜੀ ਕਦੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਬਣਾਏ ਹੋਣ, ਜਿਹਨੇ ਕਾਲਜ ਬਣਾਏ ਹੋਣ, ਜਿਹਨੇ ਹਸਪਤਾਲ ਬਣਾਏ ਹੋਣ, ਮੁਹੱਲਾ ਕਲੀਨਿਕ ਬਣਾਏ ਹੋਣ, ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਜੇਲ੍ਹ 'ਚ ਮਾਰੇ ਜੀ? ਇਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਡਰਾ ਲੈਣਗੇ? शाख से गिरकर टूट जाएं हम वो पत्ते नहीं, शाख से गिरकर टूट जाएं हम वो पत्ते नहीं, आंधियों को कह दो जरा अपनी औकात में रहें। सानू इस तरह नहीं डरा सकते कि असी इन्हां नूं पता नहीं छोटे छोटे गिरफ्तारियां जां ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਡਰ ਜਾਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਹਿ ਦਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੀ ਚਲੋ ਛੱਡੋ ਜੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀ ਲੈਣਾ। ਸਰ ਡਰਦਾ ਉਹੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਦਿਲ 'ਚ ਪਾਲਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਦਿਲ 'ਚ ਚੋਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਨਾ, ਉਹੀ ਡਰਦਾ। ਬਾਕੀ ਤਾਂ ਸਿੱਧਾ ਅੱਖਾਂ 'ਚ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦਾ ਵੀ ਆ ਜਾ ਭਾਈ ਕਰੀਏ ਗੱਲ। ਸੋ ਸੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਦਬ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਪਰ ਸੱਚ ਮਰਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਰ। ਸੋ ਸੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਬਾਹਰ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੀ ਆਉਂਦਾ, ਕੋਈ ਸਬੂਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲੇ, ਛੱਡਣਾ ਹੀ ਪੈਣਾ। ਪਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਚਿਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਰੋਕ ਲਓ। ਇਹ ਲੋਕਤੰਤਰ ਹੈ ਸਰ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਵਕਤ ਲੋਕਤੰਤਰ ਦੇ ਕਸਟੋਡੀਅਨ ਹੋ। ਇਸ ਵਕਤ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਹਾਊਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋ। ਬੜੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਡਿਊਟੀ ਲਾਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾਮ ਆਊਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਲੀਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਚੜਿਆ, ਜਦੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਰੰਗਲਾ ਬਣਨ ਵਾਲੀ ਰਾਹ ਤੇ ਤੁਰਿਆ, ਉਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਸਪੀਕਰ ਕੌਣ ਸੀ ਵਿਧਾਨ ਸਭਾ ਦਾ, ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਨਾਮ ਆਊਗਾ। ਡਿਪਟੀ ਸਪੀਕਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬੈਠੇ ਨੇ, ਨਾਮ ਆਊਗਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ। ਸਾਰੇ ਆ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੁਲੀਗ ਬੈਠੇ ਨੇ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਆਊਗਾ ਕਿ ਹਾਂ ਇਹ ਉਦੋਂ ਸੀ, ਇਹ ਟੀਮ ਸੀ। ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੀਆਂ ਪੀੜ੍ਹੀਆਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਾਫ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਗੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਇੰਨਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ। ਇੰਨਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਤਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦਾ ਕੁਛ ਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਮੁਹਾਂਦਰਾ ਬਦਲ ਦਿੰਦੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ।
Chamber down.
Very nice.
Brim down.
Nice shot.
So over me down.
Good bhai. Right में race right में.
Raise me down. Let's go. चारों में रेल उड़ा दी भाई.
अरे भेज दिया डैड ने यार, कहते जाओ पासबुक अपडेट करा के लाओ।
मिस्टर चिंटू, हेलो।
यू नो मी?
आपका पापा आपका पोस्टर स्टोरीज दिखाता रहता है। ए प्लीज प्लीज, यू प्ले वेल, आई मस्ट से। बेश भालो।
थैंक यू।
अपडेट?
हाँ। वैसे सब कुछ तो हो जाता है आपके ऐप पे।
हाँ।
तो फिर पासबुक के लिए बैंक क्यों?
वो भी दिख जाता है ऐप पे। पूछो।
पापा को बताऊंगा, बैंक ही नहीं आना पड़ेगा।
उन्हें सब पता है, वो फिर भी यहाँ आएंगे।
क्यों?
पासबुक तो घर पे दिख जाएगा, किंतु उनका जोक्स पे हंसने वाला यहीं मिलेगा।
रिश्ता आपसे है, सिर्फ ऐप से नहीं। फेडरल बैंक, योर परफेक्ट बैंकिंग पार्टनर।
ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਕਰ ਦੋ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਪਿੰਡ ਉਸ ਚਾਦਰ ਦੇ ਥੱਲੋਂ ਦੀ ਲੰਘੂਗਾ। ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਬੰਦੇ ਬੁੜੀਆਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਲੰਘਾਈ ਜਾਓ। ਜਿਹਨੇ ਮੱਝ ਚੋਰੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਉਸੇ ਥਾਂ ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਚਾਦਰ ਦੇ ਥੱਲੋਂ ਦੀ ਲੰਘੂਗਾ ਉਹਦੀ ਮਰ ਜਾਊਗਾ ਉਹ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜੀ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਕਰਤੀ, 4 ਬੰਦੇ ਚਾਦਰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਖੜ ਗਏ ਤੇ ਲੰਘਾਈ ਗਏ ਸਪੀਕਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ। ਸਾਰਾ ਪਿੰਡ ਲੰਘ ਗਿਆ, ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਰਿਆ। ਕਾਰਨ ਕੀ ਸੀ? ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੱਝਾਂ ਚੋਰੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਚਾਦਰ ਫੜਾ ਰੱਖੀ ਸੀ ਜੀ, ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਲੰਘੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਦਰ ਦੇ ਥੱਲੋਂ ਦੀ। ਸਰ ਆਹੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਤਰਾਸ਼ਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਅਸੀਂ ਚੋਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚਾਦਰਾਂ ਫੜਾ ਰੱਖੀਆਂ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀਆਂ, ਸਟੇਟ ਦੀਆਂ, ਤੇ ਆਪਦੇ ਆਪ ਚੋਂ ਚੋਰ ਲੱਭੀ ਗਏ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪ ਵੀ ਤੂੰ ਚੋਰ ਹੈ ਤੂੰ ਚੋਰ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਨਾ, ਜਦੋਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੀ ਬਦਲਤੀ ਪੋਲਿਟਿਕਸ ਦੀ ਕਿ ਭਾਈ ਬਸ ਕਰੋ ਹੁਣ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ। ਜਿਉਂ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਆ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਦੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਮੌਕਾ ਹੋਰ ਦਿਓ ਜੀ। ਬੜੇ ਮੌਕੇ ਦੇ ਕੇ ਲੋਕ ਥੱਕ ਗਏ। ਪਰ ਮੈਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ ਇਸ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਸਦਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਯਕੀਨ ਦਿਵਾਉਣਾ ਕਿ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਯਕੀਨ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿੰਨਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ, ਇੱਕ ਆਮ ਜਿਹੇ ਘਰਾਂ 'ਚੋਂ ਉੱਠੇ ਹੋਏ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਸਾਥੀ ਨੇ, ਆਮ ਘਰਾਂ 'ਚੋਂ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਆ, ਲਗਭਗ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਨੌਨ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਬੈਕਗਰਾਊਂਡ 'ਚੋਂ ਆ। ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ, ਪਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂਗੇ, ਹਰ ਰੋਜ਼ ਸਿੱਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਿਆਣੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਗਲਤੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਤਾਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਕੰਮ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ। ਸੋ ਕੰਮ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਛੋੜ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਸਾਡਾ ਮੋਢਾ ਫੜ ਲਿਓ, ਸਾਡੀ ਬਾਂਹ ਫੜ ਲਿਓ, ਸਾਡਾ ਕੰਨ ਫੜ ਲਿਓ, ਕਾਕਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਗਲਤ ਹੈ ਐਂ ਕਰ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਹੈ ਜੀ। ਇਹਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਾਂ ਭਗਵੰਤ ਮਾਨ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ, ਇਹ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ 3 ਕਰੋੜ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਲੋਕ ਹੀ ਇਹਦੇ ਮਾਲਕ ਨੇ। ਇਹੀ ਫਰਕ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕੈਪਟਨ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਤੇ ਬਾਦਲ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਬਣਦੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ, ਹੁਣ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਹੈ ਜੀ, ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ किसे एक शेर कहूँगा कि निगाहों में मंजिल थी, गिरे और गिरकर संभलते रहे। निगाहों में मंजिल थी, गिरे और गिरकर संभलते रहे। हवाओं ने बहुत कोशिश की मगर चिराग आंधियों में भी जलते रहे। ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹਵਾਵਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਹੀ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜੀ। ਹਵਾਵਾਂ ਦੀ ਦੀਵੇ ਦੀ ਲੜਾਈ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਹਨੇਰਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ, ਹਵਾ ਉਹੀ ਵਿਰੁੱਧ ਹੋਈ ਫਿਰਦੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਵੀ ਬੁਝਾਉਂਗੀ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ। ਆਹੀ ਉਹ ਨੇ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਰਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੁਣ ਕਿ ਆਮ ਘਰਾਂ ਦਾ ਮੁੰਡਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਿਆ, ਆਮ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਐਡਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕੁਰਸੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਬਹਿ ਗਏ। ਉਹ ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਤੋਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਰਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਫਰਸਟ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਜੀ। ਉਹ ਫਰਸਟ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਨਿਕਲਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਨਾ ਕਿਵੇਂ, ਕੋਈ ਇੱਧਰੋਂ ਰੌਲਾ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਕੋਈ ਉੱਧਰੋਂ ਰੌਲਾ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਨਾ। ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰੇ। ਸਾਡੀ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਦੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਹੈ, ਹੋਲਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਦੇ ਦਿਨ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਦਿਨ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਸਾਡੀ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਪੀਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਹੈ, ਸਾਡੀ ਸ਼ਹੀਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਹੈ। ਸਾਡੇ ਪੁਰਖਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਖੂਨ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਪੁਰਖਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਵੀ ਲਿਖ ਲਿਖ ਕੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਨੇ। ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਾਣੀ ਦਰਜ ਹੈ। ਜੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਵੀ ਅੰਗ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਲਈਏ ਤਾਂ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਕਈ ਸਾਲ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਵਿਸਥਾਰ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ, ਉਹਦੀ ਵਿਆਖਿਆ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ। ਸੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਬਲੈਸਡ ਪੀਪਲ ਹਾਂ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਆਸ਼ੀਰਵਾਦ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੋਇਆ। ਸੋ ਇੱਕ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਯਾਦ ਆਈ ਹੈ, ਜੋ 2015 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਅਦਬੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਹੋਈ, ਪੂਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ, ਹਰ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਹਿਰਦੇ ਬਲੂੰਦਰੇ ਗਏ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇਹ ਗਲਤ ਹੋਇਆ, ਇਹ ਦੋਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਮਿਲਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਦੋਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਦੇਵੇ ਕੌਣ ਸਰ? 2 ਸਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਲਗਾਤੇ, 5 ਸਾਲ ਕੈਪਟਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਲਗਾਤੇ। ਦੋਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੌਣ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਦੇਵੇ? ਚਾਦਰ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੱਥ ਸੀ, ਚਾਦਰ ਫੜ ਕੇ ਖੜੇ ਸੀ ਨਾ ਸਰ। ਉਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ, ਅਸੀਂ ਵਾਅਦਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦੋਸ਼ੀ ਨੇ, ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਬੇਅਦਬੀ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ। ਹਾਲਾਂਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੇ। ਜੀ ਤੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਹਰ ਰੋਜ਼ ਆਸ਼ੀਰਵਾਦ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਾਡੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਦੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰੀ। ਉਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰਨੀ ਵੀ ਜਾਣਦਾ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਸਟੇਜਾਂ ਤੇ ਕਿ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਮਿਲੂਗੀ। ਐਸ ਕਚਹਿਰੀ 'ਚ ਵੱਡੇ ਵਕੀਲ ਕਰ ਲਓਗੇ ਜਾਂ ਐਸ ਕਚਹਿਰੀ 'ਚ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਰ ਕਰ ਲਓਗੇ, ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੀ ਕਚਹਿਰੀ 'ਚ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਚ ਸਕਦੇ। ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਸ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਦੋਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਨਸਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਅਦਾਲਤਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਛੱਡਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਫੈਸਲਾ ਹੋ ਜੇ। ਤੇ ਸਰ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਨਵੇਂ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਗਾੜਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਕੇਸ, ਜਮਾਂ ਹੀ ਮਤਲਬ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਮਝ ਲਓ ਨਿਚੋੜਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਨਿੰਬੂ ਸੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਹਿੰਮਤ ਨਾਲ, ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਸ਼ਰਧਾ ਨਾਲ, ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਆਸ਼ੀਰਵਾਦ ਨਾਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕੇਸ ਨੂੰ ਰੀਰਾਈਟ ਕਰਕੇ 7000 ਪੰਨਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਚਲਾਨ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਾਸਟਰ ਮਾਈਂਡ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹੀ ਵੱਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਕੰਬ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਨਾ ਯਾਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਪੰਗਾ ਨਾ ਲਓ, ਪਰ ਨਹੀਂ, ਆਮ ਆਦਮੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਫੇਰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ
हेलो,
बड़ा कांड हो गया है, फट रही है। राणा प्लीज, तुम्हें सॉल्व कर सकते हो?
पता है
कोई भी सेलिब्रिटी को प्रॉब्लम होता है सबसे पहले तेरे को फोन जाता है। फिक्सर फॉर द स्टार्स।
थोड़ा लेट होगा, कुछ तो अर्जेंट आ गया है।
तुम पक्का सीक्रेटली हमारे पीएम तो नहीं हो?
राणा नायडू नाम हर दूसरे बॉलीवुड स्कैंडल में आता है। फिर हमारे यहाँ तो कहते हैं कि अगर राणा जुड़ा है तो स्कैंडल बड़ा है। नाना को जेल से छोड़ दिया।
ऐसा कैसे छोड़ दिया? उसको 5 साल और है जेल में।
तेरे को मालूम मैं क्या करा? गोली मार के आ रहा हूँ। क्या? मैं लाइफ में जो भी अच्छा बुरा किया ये फैमिली के लिए किया।
डैडी,
लेकिन शायद जोड़ा कम, थोड़ा ज्यादा।
राणा को जानता नहीं क्या तू? गुस्सा भरा पड़ा उसके अंदर।
और एक बार उसे पता चल गया तो पता नहीं वो क्या करेगा।
सांप है उन्हें ना, एक मौका मिला and he'll destroy our family. That's what he does. तेरे को इधर नहीं आना चाहिए था नागा।
नाना नहीं बोलेगा मेरे को, बाप हो तेरा।
मुंह तोड़ दो रास्ता।
नित्या मेरे को ये मोमबत्ती का स्टोरी बताई, बोली ये वाला फैमिली के लिए है। अभी एक काम कर, तू इसको कांड में डाल ले। पैदा होने के बाद 5 साल तेरी गांड साफ करा मैं। मेरे को मालूम उधर कितना गुर्दा है और कितना गू है।
All right, everybody, welcome. It is Monday. Jason's back from Japan. He's mostly awake, we think, and put together a great show. You got it together for a great show.
I don't know what time it is, but I'm a little jet lagged. I got back from Japan, great trip, and I saw this news story. I didn't get to talk to Molly about it, so I thought we should talk about this FT story about Sequoia leaving Citizens Board after electing to not participate in a pay-to-play round. So we'll talk all about the dynamics, and we'll speculate for 20 minutes or so on what the heck is going on there.
You should just know that going in.
Yeah, lots of spec.
Then we're going to talk about the IPO window maybe opening back up again in 2023 after a pretty moribund 22. Instacart and SoftBank owned ARM are both gearing up to go public. We're going to do a little compare and contrast and break down those two businesses.
Yeah, and very interesting to see Instacart and their numbers, which were leaked, perhaps, but they seem to be doing good. They seem to have righted the ship, as it were. And then Dapper Labs has a duo of stories. We're going to catch up on the action by the Southern District of New York, a very serious office that doesn't take actions lightly, and they tend to take things to the mat. And so they are in a lawsuit with Dapper Labs over the selling of NFTs. And then another story in the block describes some anonymous current and former employees who are not happy with the CEO over spending, lavish spending, maybe, or marketing expenses. What's the difference?
Rolling on PJs while you fire the little guy is always going to get you. It's always going to get you some anonymous quotes in some sort of newspaper somewhere. Yeah,
we'll find out. It's going to be a great show.
Stick with us. This Week in Startups is brought to you by Squarespace. Turn your idea into a new website. Go to squarespace.com/twist for a free trial. When you're ready to launch, use offer code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Contra is a commission-free marketplace for freelancers and independent creators. Get $500 off your first hire at contra.com/twist. And Revello, looking to affordably scale your product development with global tech talent in U.S. time zones? Hire vetted remote developers in Latin America with Revello. Get 20% off for the first 3 months at revello.com/twist.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's a Monday. I'm back.
Are you sure it's a Monday? Do you know what day it is?
Well, I left Tokyo at 5 p.m. and I got back at 9 a.m. and I slept 2 hours on the plane. Then I slept like 3 hours when I got home, and then I stayed up all night, and I don't know what time it is right now we're taping, but I'm hoping that this jet lag is easier coming this way. When I went to Japan, I got there at 10 p.m., which was 5 a.m. our time, and then I went cat skiing the next day. I did the most challenging skiing physical activity I've done in 20 years. So that was dumb, but amazing.
Oh, did it make it worse, or did it? I feel like it would make it better in the way where then that night you would just sleep and you'd just sort of wipe out the existence of the previous time zone.
No,
I like to do this as a mental game.
If I had thought this through a little bit more, I would have added a day or two of rest and onsens and just chilling for the first 2 days I got there, not immediately tried to ski the abandoned ski resort while driving up to the top and cat skiing. It was crazy. I did something that was incredibly challenging.
That's awesome. I think they're having that kind of skiing in Tahoe right now too. You might as well just
paradoxically,
I left just helicopter up there and like do it all over again.
I literally left and I let a family use the house because it was their ski week, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's the record snow in Tahoe," and I was like, "Oh wow!" So I leave to go find the powder, and it dumps powder like in record amounts. But we have, thank God, California has the most. I think this is the record or second snowpack depth in the history of recording.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think we're like there. I mean, before this last, because there was another storm that just came in on Saturday. Yes. I think we were at like slightly dry for most of this. Like, I think we might have kicked the drought kind of situation.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
The drought
Amazing.
seems to be like, yeah, it goes for like 6, 7, 8 years out here. It's horrific. And then we have these incredible monsoons and then it overflows and we don't capture any of it. I was just thinking like California has a very laissez-faire attitude towards water that we could do a better job in. All of the water just runs off into the ocean here. They don't
And it's
capture
like going to
anything.
happen when all this snow melts. It's going to run off. And then meanwhile, the Colorado River is still legit empty. Like we literally need all this water. Anyway.
It would be good if we recaptured some of it. Anyway, something to think about.
Wouldn't it?
Just an idea, a thought.
Just throwing that out there. We need it to live.
The problem in California, when I lived in Santa Monica, Southern California, all of the, it'd be bone dry for 100 days, then it rains, and all the oil and garbage will have built up in the streets, and gone down the sewers. Then the water comes and it flushes it all directly into the ocean. So instead of capturing any of that, the garbage, the water, they're just like, yeah, it doesn't rain here that much, so we just might as well just let it run off into the ocean. Like they could capture that and the garbage. So
yeah,
would be better.
Yeah. Humans gonna human.
There was a lot of news when I was gone, and one story stuck out to me because a lot of founders had questions about it. And maybe we could talk about that one as we kick off here.
Yeah, let's do it. So last month, Sequoia left the board of its portfolio company, Citizen, otherwise known as the app that scares the crap out of you because every time you wake up in the morning, you have 10 Citizen notifications and none of them are ever good. Maybe that's just Oakland. Anyway, Sequoia left the board of Citizen after declining to participate in a pay-to-play round, which there's a lot going on in that sentence, but let's sort of unpack it one by one. Why this matters is that these cram down rounds have apparently been happening frequently in this new environment. And maybe this is a good time for you to start by explaining what a pay-to-play round is and how it happens.
Sure. If you're raising money, you went to an accelerator, your valuation was 2 million, you did a seed round, your valuation was 8 million, 6 million, whatever. You raise a Series A, 30 million post, and then you raise a Series B at 100 million. Okay, the company then doesn't get proper product market fit. It's spending too much money. It anticipates, since, hey, those 4 fundraisings I just described happened easy peasy, lemon squeezy, in the height of the boom market. Founders expect, okay, I'll just do a Series B and double the valuation. It'd be great. Maybe I'll even sell some shares to the new investors and buy an apartment. So then you find an environment where people revalue the company. They say how much revenue you got and how much you're burning. And it turns out, let's just make a number up here. If they had $1 million in revenue, people were valuing it at 100 times revenue in the last round. The new investors say $1 million in revenue. Okay, 10 times that. It's worth 10 million to me. The person says, well, they raised their last round at 100 million, and nobody can agree. And then some people might have the ability to block some valuations. Now, Citizen, I just made up an example, a composite based on what we've seen. And that pretty much tracked the last 5 years of the bubble. They were valued at 447 million. So this could have been, really expensive. And then nobody wants to invest. Maybe the company's burning a ton of money, so nobody sees a way to fix this. And then somebody comes along and says, I would invest, if I saw the company and you laid off all these people and you got to, 30 people and you had 3 million in revenue and, there's a chance for this to get to break even in a year or two and then be profitable. I would do it, but I would only do it at this valuation. And now if that valuation was 20 million and the company had raised 50, the math doesn't work out, right? You have more basically debt on the books, more capital put in than you do room to invest. So they say, okay, move all of the existing investors to common, and the board would have to vote on this, and they get 20% of the new company. They lose their preferred shares, they get 20% of the company. There's no longer a preference stack, so they don't get their $50 million out first. And then anybody who wants to can participate in this new round. So to keep any reasonable amount of ownership, you have to put money in. And if you don't put money in, you're going to be washed out. Recapitalized is a way to say this. So the round is paid to play. You pay, or you basically are going to lose a bunch of equity. And it's kind of cutthroat. I think we've had many conversations where people just say, I really would not want to be the person who suggests the pay to play round or offers it because it creates a lot of bad feelings. And here we are, lots of bad feelings.
this round, in the case of Citizen specifically, which I think you mentioned most recently valued at $447 million, had an equity conversion rate of 10-1, meaning that the shares of those who did not participate in the current funding round would be reduced to a tenth of their previous value.
Sure.
So you have these bad feelings, and then you have this kind of larger question of the signal that it sent. So in this case, Sequoia refused to participate. Sequoia had led Citizen Series A in 2017.
Chose, elected. Yeah, I mean,
As opposed to refused?
Refused is a little bit charged.
Right.
When you're making the way an investor should make this is they should value it based on the current market.
Yep.
And they should elect, they should choose to invest or not based on the best interests of their LPs.
Sequoia
so refusing
elected.
makes it seem like it was an obligation, like they had to. They don't have to. So I'm guessing the press used that word, maybe. Refused.
They declined to participate. They elected not to. Sure. Mike Vernal left the board.
Okay, big statement. Yep.
Refused. The press did use that word, per Nick, who is updating our notes in real time. I guess the question, so then one of the people close to Citizen said Sequoia's decision was ruthless. It's very possible that Citizen itself may have, or people close to Citizen use the word refuse, and that as its earliest backer, it had abandoned the company in its hour of need. I wonder how much of that is an attempt to counter the signal that gets sent.
Yeah.
In the case of Sequoia electing not to participate and then leaving the board.
Yeah. So lots of bad feelings all around. And if you are the VC, you do not comment, right? Because there's no upside here.
Yeah.
It could be, we don't know, if the company was run terribly. The founders did a terrible job. It could be they didn't take anybody's advice. It could be they spent money ridiculously and weren't focused, right? And Sequoia might have looked at it and said, you know what, this company is not being run well. It did not manage its finances properly. It did not have a path to profitability. We can't put bad money after good. We made a good investment in something that was very promising. And then in the execution stage, it wasn't they proved to us that they can't build a robust, profitable business. So as an investor, can you imagine coming out and saying that? It's you can't come out and say bad things. It's like saying bad things about your ex situation, right? Is there any upside in that? People get divorced and you could look at this like a divorce. Is it going to go out and badmouth your ex-spouse to other people? It's really not a good idea. So I think that's probably what happened here.
I mean, it seems like a lose-lose for Citizen. It seems like a lose-lose for a company that is in need of a fundraise, finds itself in a situation where they are participating in a pay-to-play round.
Yep.
And then you have a major investor who led one of your rounds elect not to participate and leave your board. Yep. And there's whether they say anything or not, it's hard for that not to be a signal.
Right. That's why these things typically happen quietly.
Right.
And usually people say nice things about each other if it does come out. And so let's look at a couple of other logical things here. And I know people know I'm affiliated with Sequoia. They've invested in one of my companies and I was a Sequoia scout. And so does Sequoia have money?
A little bit. $80 billion under assets.
Yeah, they have money.
In assets under management, I believe.
They have
about
money.
$80 billion.
Does Sequoia know how to build large, meaningful companies in the world?
Right.
Have they participated in building companies for the ages and know how to operate these businesses? Yeah, better than anybody, you could argue. So this is a group of people who have a ton of money, a ton of knowledge, and they elected to not participate in this funding round, which was a distress funding. It is the job of the founders, in consultation with the board, to not get themselves into this kind of situation.
Right.
Again, not to super blame the founders, but if something doesn't work out and somebody who has an unlimited amount of capital and a lot of knowledge and chops in the space elects to not participate, it signals to me that maybe the company was not being operated at peak operational excellence. Let's, just to be kind. That's what my gut tells me. And, they still have a small ownership percentage, but somebody leaked this because they were hurt.
Right. Definitely.
Sequoia would never leak it.
I can't imagine why they would. Yeah, exactly.
What's the upside, right?
It would be, right. What's the upside?
Hey everybody, we're back with another Show Us Your Space contest in partnership with our friends at Squarespace. We did this last year. It was a huge hit. Here's how it works. We're going to give one Twist listener $1,000 in Squarespace credits, but we're doing it vertical specific this time. If you run any kind of an e-commerce related business, it could be a D2C brand, a consumer marketplace, a consumer subscription service, online course, you get the idea. Head to showusyourspace.com. That's it. And that's going to redirect you to one of my tweets from @Jason. Reply to the tweet with a short video, an image, a link, a GIF, whatever that shows off your e-commerce site on Squarespace. Then the team is going to pick a winner and we're going to give them $1,000 in a Squarespace gift card. That's right. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to start a side project, a hustle, Squarespace is how you do it. On Squarespace, you can build or sell anything. We love it here at launch. We use it for Remote Demo Day, countless other projects, and the features are amazing. They've got templates, analytics, inventory management, APIs, everything. And it's optimized for mobile. It's going to look great on an iPhone, an Android phone. Everything just looks perfect. And you can even sell courses directly inside of Squarespace and keep the 15% that other platforms are taking. Listen, it's your money. Keep it. Here's your call to action. It's so simple. Head to squarespace.com/twist to start your free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use the offer code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
When you look at this dispassionately from just the kind of external reading, Sequoia does not appear to be the bad guy here, right? Like Sequoia appears to be a firm that made a decision in the best interest of its LPs.
It's basically how you're supposed to make every decision.
About it.
Yeah, you're supposed to look at every decision and say, will this return capital? Now, as an investor, you also want to have a heart, sure. But when it comes to writing the check and making the bet, you have to then make a dispassionate trade. Very hard to do in venture capital because, as we see in venture capital, as opposed to me trading Facebook and being like, I'm criticizing Zuckerberg's behavior over here and I made the trade. It's a public thing. I'm not like, I haven't seen Zuckerberg in person in, I don't know, 7-8 years, you know, like I have no relationship to Zuckerberg. I can make a dispassionate trade. I didn't spend 5, 6, 7 years with the company trying to build it and then make a dispassionate trade.
Right.
And, you know, the press is going to, you know, this is a juicy story that doesn't come out. So there is what they call palace intrigue here, big money intrigue, like, ooh, Sequoia, biggest name in venture capital. Ooh, this startup is a very polarizing startup. You remember, I think they had put a bounty out at one point. We covered that story. I think I covered
so.
it.
I interviewed the founder on Marketplace back in the day and about this idea of like incenting people to run to crime scenes. And I mean, it's been pretty controversial. It also makes me wonder about the firms that force the pay to play scheme.
Yeah.
Like, is that also smart business? Is it kind of like, what should we tell founders about how there's probably going to be more rescues like that headed their way in a tough funding environment?
We, without going into specifics, we did one of these during this down market. There was an asset, still had a lot of value, was damaged. The founders wanted to try to keep it alive. And, you know, it was a very modest ask. And it was literally like investing in a friends and family round, seed round, to put in a very small amount of money for a larger amount of capital in a business that was valued at 10 times what we invested in it. And I thought, should I do this or not? And I had, I thought about loyalty to the founders, et cetera. And then I thought about our LPs and I balanced it, you know, okay, I trust these founders. I got some, you know, experience with them and I think it's a good trade. Now, anybody who doesn't participate in it is going to get crammed down, but they would have had a zero otherwise. And so when the person who's doing the cram down round says, hey, I'm putting the offer out here. I realize this price is not what anybody else paid for it. Therefore, you can come in alongside me. You can pay to play. So I'm not excluding you from this. That's why the play part is put in there. This way, it's back on the original investors. You're choosing not to invest at this new valuation. You had the chance. So you bought shares at $1. Now they're worth 10 cents. You liked them at $1, but you won't participate in 10 cents. Okay, you made your choice. And I choose to buy them at 10 cents. It's just that when it's a private company, there's a lot of feels. There's a lot of feelings. This also this might have also been, now that you bring up the discussion on Marketplace with like how people were a little uneasy with the startup, This might have just been a convenient time to disengage from a startup that was just a little too spicy,
Maybe.
right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe Sequoia didn't, or other investors didn't like this idea of the bounties or the sending people to crime scenes, and just said, you know what, we invested in this because we thought it was an interesting concept originally, but it didn't pan out, and they're doing things that are a little too aggro for us to be associated with.
When the founder, Andrew Friend, was also on Twist, episode 1117, he mentioned they were going to try to build some kind of, quote, vigilante protection service where people in high crime areas could pay a monthly fee to essentially have a security guard escort them from place to place.
I mean, Uber for security guards is a brilliant idea. That exists to a certain
You're like,
extent.
actually, I'm in.
Now, if you said, hey, wouldn't it be great if during a high crime time you could click a button, or if you were an individual who's a public person and needed security on demand, you could click a button and for $40 an hour have somebody sit outside your house for a night. Like, that sounds like a
Batman as a service. We have, I mean, my neighborhood has like a lot of neighborhoods that have some kind of an HOA, have private security. That's like becoming more and more common, where you just
Yes.
sort of pool your money and you pay for somebody to patrol.
It is a huge
It's not
deterrent.
uncommon. Yeah.
And putting cameras up. We had the license plate reading company that small towns are doing license plate reading companies. So it reads all the license plates that come into your area. A little bit of privacy concern there, but it dumps the data every 30 days or something, and hey, this license plate hasn't been in the neighborhood before. Okay, yeah, it's a delivery truck. Who cares? It's an Uber. Oh, it's a unmarked van that's beaten up and it's sitting on the side of the road somewhere idling. Okay, could be a reason, but we should send somebody out there to check it out.
Right.
Oh yeah, somebody's living in their van. Okay, good to know. Oh, somebody's lost. Great, it's a broken down car. Whatever it is. So yeah, these seem like spicy founders. I'll be honest.
Oh, 100% spicy founders. I wonder the extent to which we're going to start to see. I mean, spicy founders have had it a perfectly good run, right? For a long time. Like, spicy founders isn't always a problem. In fact, often it is considered a feature, not a bug. But I wonder the extent to which we're going to start to see, for various reasons that range from spicy founders to simply
Let's
just
say pirate.
making
The pirate founder. Here's the thing
pirate
about being a
founder.
pirate. You better
Is it going to get more
be
ruthless
successful. But just on the point of pirates.
now? Because otherwise you get killed by the other pirates.
Exactly. If you want to be a pirate, you got to be successful at that job. And so, is Citizen successful? I don't know that they ever found a business model that worked. I think they were trying to figure it out, and it's a free product, and they got to vigilante as a service. Like, it sounds like they didn't find.
They have a subscription. They have like a premium product.
Oh, do they?
That they always try to get me to sign up for whenever I open it.
It would, yeah. So would it be worth it? I don't know.
But generally, as we get deeper into this downturn, I do wonder about this quantitative versus qualitative, and the having to set the feelings aside and be a little more ruthless, which is part of the industry and always has been. Like, it's finance at the end of the day, finance with relationships. But because there are so many founders who had a really easy time raising, who have not seen a downturn, and we're talking about funds, not just Sequoia, but funds that feel like they have unlimited capital. Like, I do wonder if we're going to see more publicly hurt feelings. Like, this has been a business conducted in private for a long time, but you wonder how much of it's going to come out as these firms start to make harder and harder decisions.
Yeah, it tends to come out. You have dribs and drabs of stuff.
Yeah.
There's an incentive to be magnanimous in these situations. If you're the investor, you never want to say something bad about a founder, because that other founder's like, oh, well, if it doesn't work out, you're going to say something bad about me, or vice versa. So for these founders, if they did leak this, I don't know that they did, but kind of feels like it would be a leak from that side, or it could be an angel investor who is aware of this, talked to the founders, and leaked it on their behalf. Anything's possible here, so I don't want to speculate more than speculating every possible
More than we already
for
have.
20 minutes, every
20
possible
minutes, yeah.
permutation of this. But I'm speculating for the help of the founders listening. Like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, you can just quietly, have your opinion about the other person. If somebody asks you, hey, should I have them as an investor? You can say, it didn't work out for me, but you might have a different experience, or say nothing. And that really is, I think, how Silicon Valley works. You don't hear people bad-mouthing people. It's very subtle here. And you want to keep optionality. What if the Citizen founders, one of the Citizen founders, their next business is Uber or Airbnb? So you want to keep good relations, and vice versa. What if they come up with a great idea and Sequoia is going to back them again? Keep everything friendly. Enemies accumulate as these companies go out of business. You got to just try to be kind to everybody on the way out. It's hard enough. You know, you get these stories once in a while. The press loves these stories. I'm not saying they shouldn't cover them either, but the press loves these stories. These are, you know, they don't happen often. But I wouldn't read too much into it. Like, you have to make the right trade as an investor for your LPs. And remember, they had FTX. Remember, Sequoia invested in FTX, and they had written that blog post that was effusive about how great Sam Bankman-Fried was. VCs are on high alert right now. Oh God, if you backed Theranos, if you backed FTX, you're on high alert. And you can't have those kind of things back to back. So maybe they saw like, oh, this could have other issues. Like, what if they do Vigilante as a service and somebody gets killed, and then Sequoia backed Vigilante as a service? They may have been trying to unwind this for a while. They may have been asking the founder, hey, please don't do crazy things like Vigilante as a service. It blows back on us kind of situation.
Yeah. So much to speculate about.
So much. But, far be it from us to speculate.
Far be it from us to speculate.
For 25 minutes.
No, for 25 minutes.
Hiring freelancers and doing that on project-based work is a brilliant way for you to grow your startup sustainably, right? You can't just hire everybody in every little vertical. And listen, there is a ton of top talent right now out there looking for work due to all the layoffs in tech. You know that. So you need to check out Contra, C-O-N-T-R-A. Contra is a commission-free marketplace for freelance and independent creators. So all that money that's going back and forth between you and your freelancers, it's not getting taken by some marketplace. No, there's no percentage-based upcharge when you do hire somebody. And they do all the vetting. They find the best people. On the other side of the marketplace, hey, if you're one of these laid-off tech workers and you got tons of skill, well, sign up for Contra. It's an amazing platform for you. And remember, like I said above, creators on Contra keep 100% of what they make. There's no fees. They specialize in design, engineering, social media, video, writing, and of course, AI. This is a really easy way for you to get great talent and to do it quickly. If you need project-based work, you need to check out Contra. It's that easy. And you know what? The best thing about freelancers is you only spend what you need to spend. You might have a really important social media project, but it's only for 6 months of the year. Or you need some videos, but you only need 10 of them, not 100 of them. They're going to do it fast. They're going to do it right. So here's your call to action. I can't believe it. $500 off your first hire at contra.com/twist. That's right. 5 crisp hundies waiting for you at Contra, CONTRA.com/twist.
We are going to potentially get the opportunity to speculate in public about publicly traded companies that we've had many questions about, because it looks like the IPO window might be opening back up.
Here we go.
After a quiet 2022, Instacart and the really dishy one, SoftBank-owned Arm, are both reportedly gearing up to go public this year. Of course.
That's a big deal.
There were basically bupkis IPOs in 2022. There were 181, which was down 82.5% from 2021 when there were over 1,000 IPOs. That was an all-time high. But it looks like, at least so far, of course, Stripe remains the outstanding question, but so far it looks like we're going to see 2 major IPOs in Instacart and Arm. So we can break them both down here.
Yeah. I mean, Instacart took that huge valuation cut, if you remember. We talked about that on the show, 75%.
75%.
And then they've been talking, I guess, about their results publicly.
They had a leak.
Oh, it was a leak. Okay.
But it's the kind of leak that makes you think they're talking about it publicly as they raise attention for their IPO,
That does happen.
Especially since it's good news and not bad news in the case of Instacart.
Yeah, good news leak. It's like, hey, hey, Valleywag, you're never going to believe it. Our revenue's up 50%. Scandalous.
What has happened that Wall Street Journal is the new Valleywag? Bless.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did leak that, or somebody leaked, that in Q4 2022, far be it from us to speculate, but someone leaked. Revenue was up more than...
Not Insta CFO at AOL.com.
Oh no, I accidentally said that.
Oops.
Well, nice. Revenue was up more than 50%, even though order volume only grew 16% because Instacart turned on advertising in the app. Boom. Instant money machine. We have seen this happen with a bunch of consumer tech businesses, Amazon, Uber, and now Instacart.
Yes.
Reportedly, gross profit was up more than 80% And for the full year 2022, Instacart revenue increased 39% to $2.5 billion. So at a $10 billion valuation, which is what they cut the internal valuation to back in 2022, Instacart would only be trading at 4x 2022 revenue.
Okay, great. Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of headwinds against this business, lots of competitors. Amazon, Uber's doing delivery of groceries now. I think DoorDash is doing delivery of groceries now too.
Yeah.
And so those services work really well. They have large networks of buyers. I have to say, and I'm not just saying this because I'm Team Uber still, but I've been using the Uber grocery product and it's faster. And we have Instacart too. And we were Instacart and Good Eggs only. And now Uber's taken a decent chunk of that because it's just so much faster.
This kind of feels like, I remember saying this when GoPro was about to go public, that like, you better just go ahead and do that now. Like now's your shot. Go public, raise that money.
Yep.
And then, chunk along. But I don't know that there's going to, for all of the reasons you just mentioned, I don't know that there's going to be a better window for Instacart than there is now because it is hard to pinpoint the differentiator. Like I like that Instacart has a lot of stores, a lot, and it's easy to choose from them. I don't find the shopping to be particularly high quality. That's probably regional. Right? It depends on where you are.
The issue really with these services is, unlike Amazon, where I've never gotten a mistake.
Yeah.
Every Instacart order has 3 mistakes, or 2 mistakes, and you're just like, I'm going to deal with it.
It's like a meme at this point. Like it's just like sort of a joke. Like, ooh, what did I get from Instacart? 9 pounds of sugar. Whoops.
Or it's and for me, it's usually something subtle. Like I like a certain type of Greek yogurt, and they substituted the brand I absolutely hate. And I'm just like,
right.
Now I got to eat the yogurt. You start getting your first world vibe on where you're just outraged that like the Greek yogurt that you love is now you're getting the one that's not as thick as
everything that they've done. I mean, ironically, everything they've done to try to mitigate the mistakes just adds work. So like you have to go in and you have to select which things to substitute with and which not. And then you have to communicate constantly. Like I will.
Oh my God! When that shopper is at the thing.
Oh my God! They call, they text. They're like your stalker.
It's like going shopping with a teenager. It's now going to take 3 times as long.
What about this? What about this?
I just check. No subs, no substitutions. That's it.
Yeah.
And makes everything
so it does
super easy.
So then then when you're going through that experience and you're mad about it, then you feel like such a first world a-hole.
Yes.
That I just then have just started to go to the store. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the store. And that's bad for Instacart. Like they want me to sit there and have a first world experience, but I don't.
There is something nice about going to the store and perusing the aisles and seeing what's there. Sometimes I had that experience, when I go up to Lake Tahoe and I'm in the mountains, there's no Instacart. And it's quite nice for me for a change of pace to do my own shopping as opposed to, having it delivered to my doorstep. But I do think this advertising business is a very interesting wrinkle. If you think about hitting scale with these businesses, and then you are Frito-Lay, or you are Budweiser, or Eggo waffles, something, and then they always give you that, oh, do you want to add this to your order? And it's like, do I want to add Eggo waffles? Of course I do. Like, who doesn't like those?
Oh,
Frosted
it
Flakes.
works like a charm.
So are you going to advertise on television and then hope that your Eggo waffle or your Frosted Flake commercial, your Budweiser commercial, incents me to actually buy that product? Or would you like to have the Google search version of that product, which is, hey, when somebody's at the checkout counter, would you like somebody to say Eggo waffles and dangle them above your cart?
Right.
Like that's
I'd be
literally
like,
what they're
get the
doing.
hell away from me. I know.
They're like,
and if it
literally
happened at the
dangling
store,
above the last bag. Here's your Eggos. Just say it. Say the word. Click. Boop.
Well, it's just like an end cap. I mean, it's it's like having the promotional part of the grocery store, and I always buy those stupid cake cookies with the pink frosting that are disgusting.
Oof.
Like this is brilliant. Like, in terms of integrating advertising, there's almost no better way to put advertising to turn it on than in a place where people are already shopping and are just like, oh, okay, sure, fine. I mean, I'll go through those stupid. It's like Instacart. It's like 3 screens, and I'm just like, yeah, I want one of those and some of that, and give me this. And
they get me on Uber Eats like when I'm ordering food. They're like, hey, side of guacamole, or do you want flan? And I'm like, yeah, I want flan.
Yeah, I want flan.
I'm not supposed to eat it, but I do want it. And like, this is, I think,
Smart revenue.
It's what brand CPG advertisers have always coveted, you know, the checkout, and they've never had access to it. And because you can't fit that much in the candy bars at the checkout, right? You can't put a bunch of products there. They have like magazines and candy. So
it is funny now that you mention it. Like, I'm picturing in the store aisles those last aisles that are and they are crammed with stuff. I mean, it's like there's some magazines, and then there's candy, and then there's like a row of chiclets, and then this and that. I mean, you can almost feel the desperation of the bidding on the checkout aisle. And now it's like digital checkout aisle where it's just like recommendation. I mean, it's really actually, you could imagine that becoming a huge part of it. You could imagine that, especially in a competitive environment, being the thing that keeps you afloat.
It might be the business.
And maybe it becomes the business.
Maybe it actually is the business. Maybe Amazon's business ultimately is people buying ads and breaking even on the delivery of it.
Yeah.
That might actually be the business. Like, we don't really need to make money off of your order. We break even on it, but we have this advertising moment at the end that just is so coveted. We make money off that. Finding great engineers is time consuming. It's expensive. Let's face it, it's a pain in the neck. If you're looking for qualified international developers without those crazy time differences, Revello is the answer. Revello is a talent platform that matches you with vetted, full-time, remote developers in Latin America, which is to say, they work in the US time zone, right? This means your engineers, your product managers, your designers, your executives, they can collaborate in real time with your devs. Plus, it's so much more cost effective than hiring in the US. And you're going to get matched with vetted candidates within 3 days. Revello handles all the annoying stuff. Payroll, taxes, benefits, all that mashugana, they take care of it. This means you can hire internationally without the headache. Revello's engineers are full-time and embedded in your team like normal employees. They're proficient in AWS, Rust, Ruby, React, Python, Node.js, all that good stuff. And Revello's customers include GitHub, Foursquare, Carta, Indiegogo, and Kickstarter, among many others. So here is your call to action. I want you to go to revello.com/twist and mention twist to get 20% off your first 3 months. Plus, they offer 100% risk-free 14-day trial period. If you're not satisfied, you pay nothing, nada, zero, zilch. That's revello.com/twist, REVELO.com/twist. Mention twist to get that 20% off. So ARM, this is, I believe, SoftBank bought ARM, right?
SoftBank bought ARM when it was public.
Right.
So ARM is a fascinating company. It is a chip, it's British, and it's a chip design company, meaning that it doesn't actually manufacture its own chips. It's actually quite clever. It's like the lowest, capital intensive way to do this. They create this chip architecture and license its chip blueprint technology, basically. And then they take a royalty on products that are sold using that technology. So once you build the chip using ARM's blueprint, they charge you for the blueprint, and then they charge you a royalty fee every time you build and sell one of those chips. And so in 2021, ARM reportedly generated $2.7 billion in revenue. The licensing and the royalty revenue were somewhat close to even. The licensing revenue has been growing a lot faster. But ARM was founded in 1990 as a joint venture between Apple, Acorn Computers, and VLSI Technology. In 1998, it went public on the NASDAQ and London Stock Exchange. But then in 2016, it was bought by SoftBank for $32 billion with, and this was reported in 2020, the intent always to sell it to somebody like NVIDIA. So in 2020, NVIDIA reached a deal to buy ARM from SoftBank for $40 billion in stock and cash, and SoftBank would get a 10% stake in NVIDIA. I mean, this would have been a blockbuster, like just an absolutely absurd deal. NVIDIA becomes basically the king of the world. However, in February 2022, after more than a year of regulatory scrutiny, the acquisition was canceled. And NVIDIA kind of had to go back to the drawing board in some ways, but they remained pretty strong. And then SoftBank is looking to take ARM public. Everybody was like, oh God, SoftBank really ate it. on that deal.
I always knew ARM because when I was back in my PC era, back in the day, you had a choice to buy an Intel PC or an ARM PC. The ARM ones were cheaper and more powerful, or more bang for the buck, it seemed. And then Intel did like, the Intel design, Intel Inside campaign, the jingle, and really said, hey, we're the better ones. But it was kind of like a Coke and a Pepsi kind of thing, or maybe RC Cola and Coke might be a better analogy. But they also do all of the smaller chips for wearables and smartphones and that kind of stuff. So I think that was their big innovation as well.
That's why they were kind of an Intel killer, because you recall Intel is still like ARM ate Intel's lunch by building mobile chip designs. And Intel never really cracked the mobile market. I think still has not cracked the mobile market, which has been a big question for them. So then the theory was that if NVIDIA had acquired ARM, and this I think was sort of SoftBank's plan all along in acquiring it and taking it private, NVIDIA would then control the market for GPUs, which of course are the key to AI processing. They've become really big for autonomous driving development, huge for crypto mining. And then they also would have had access to all of this sort of mobile chip development.
Just stepping back from ARM and, wish them a great IPO. Congratulations. And I hope Masa makes a bundle of money and gets back in the game. I know he's got some debt to pay down.
To be clear, we're expecting papers in like April-ish.
I have to say, I have, stepping back, I am very impressed at how fast the CHIPS Act went through. And I've been giving that a lot of thought. Have we ever seen a bipartisan bill like this to subsidize businesses go through this quickly? I mean, the great financial crisis and that would be one where they did the bailout of all the banks or whatever.
Right. But that was a bailout, not an incentive. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of different, right? That was acute. It wasn't like... So then you see this CHIPS and Science Act. And we started hearing about this like a couple of years ago in 2021, maybe it starts bubbling up and then it's like, boom, it's in effect and boom, everybody's building factories and like these incentives are going. It's big, right? 52 billion or something. It's like this giant thing and roughly 280 billion to boost domestic research according to Wikipedia. And I was wondering why is this train going so fast? China.
Yeah, exactly.
And why exactly are they so concerned about chips in China? And then all of this stuff with the lab leak theory comes out. And I was like, they really think, I think what was happening is people really think the relationship with China over this lab leak thing was going to come out and be like really hairy and gnarly. And this Taiwan situation and all of this craziness going on, we didn't want to be caught short with not having chips. Is it too tinfoil hat?
Maybe.
I'm admitting it's a tinfoil hat kind of moment.
I know. I'm like, well, or we got into a trade war with China. There were like lots and lots of tariffs.
Yep.
There were threats to withhold.
Okay.
And we do not have domestic manufacturing of semiconductors. Like we don't have it. Now, to be clear, a lot happens in China. If there's a tinfoil hat, it's more really maybe about China invading Taiwan because Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, best name ever. I love a literal name. TSMC.
What do they do?
Where
are they based?
Exactly.
Do they make anything?
I mean, it's the best. It's just the greatest.
Manufacturing company. Oh,
the biggest manufacturing. Yeah.
But it's like biggest, literally the name. It's a manufacturing company.
Literally.
We make stuff.
Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing. Like, it's so great. They're
manufacturing company that delivers to you.
And then during COVID, unrelated to labs or anything, right? We just couldn't get it. If you can't get chips, there is nothing that you can build. There are no cars. There are no computers. There are no phones. There are no watches. There are no appliances. There's nothing. I mean, I actually think the speed with which we moved was the actual internalizing of the national security risk here. Yeah, you can't build a bomb, for God's sake. You need a lot of bombs, turns out.
You need a lot of chips in those bombs.
There's still nothing that we spend more money on than bombs.
I don't know if we manufacture those ourselves. I'd be interested in following those backwards, like because they probably have all kinds of chips in them. Like
Wait,
it's not just
bombs?
one set of chips; there's a zillion of them. So or the
They're like, wait, who makes our bombs? Do we need to onshore this?
And the components in them, right? Who knows what components are used for the equipment around the bomb? The truck that drives the bomb somewhere, the missile silo, the computer monitors and computers that run the missile silo.
If we find out we're making our missiles in China, that's going to be amazing.
Well, I don't think we're making them there, but is it possible that there are components inside of,
definitely
aspects that come from Taiwan? It's possible, probable.
100%.
Yeah. So
like we don't have, there are hardly, and maybe like Micron has a foundry in the US.
Oh, we didn't see when we were away for these 2 weeks. We didn't get to talk about that's why I really wanted to talk to you about the lab leak theory with a report that came out that maybe, more people are leaning towards it's a possibility. We didn't get to talk about that.
I think we're up to like 2 out of 7 federal agencies, one with moderate and one with low confidence.
Yeah.
We should definitely run with that though.
I mean, it does feel like the chances of there being 2 research facilities in the world that do this, and one of them was where the outbreak, it's just geographically peculiar.
I think I tweeted something to the effect that it was very interesting that all of a sudden there was just a ton of like heavily misrepresent, because that report did come out from the DOE. They said they had moderate confidence in the idea that it could be a lab leak. I think the FBI is still at low confidence, and every other federal agency so far.
Yeah.
And we don't know what they're going to come up with eventually, but so far is like, nah. Wet market.
I'm going with Jon Stewart.
However, like we might find out more information. It was just weird that there was that and then the massively misrepresented mask thing in the same week. That doesn't, it's like I want to get to ground truth, but that doesn't feel like we're going either. It feels like now we're just going to go all the way in the other direction and then get to ignore the fact that like millions, so many excess people died in the US and didn't have to.
This is going to be a messy one to unpack.
It really
is. It's going to be super messy to unpack. I just hope we can objectively look at it. And
we need a commission. Like we need a COVID commission, like the 9/11 commission, like the Watergate commission. Like we need
why does that exist?
A truly bipartisan commission, because people are crazy.
I mean, this seems like something that should be a real focus, just because it's going to happen again, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be good to just
already not to be like a giant bummer, but it's probably already brewing with like bird flu right now. Evidently, it's like in minks. And minks have a respiratory system that's like the same as humans.
You know what we should do is we should study that.
Hey, here's an idea.
We should study that. You know what we should do is we should study not only that, but what it could evolve into. Just so we're prepared for the next version. Yes. So we could like literally use science to study where that is going. No, don't do that.
Wait. Like we could be prepared for it?
Well, we could just evolve it. We could just give it like a gain of function. We could like add to the functionality of whatever we find, and then you just do like some, add some functions to it. Like see if you made it more robust, what would happen?
We do that. We definitely are. We do that.
Do it. I have a really good idea.
Why we don't talk about lab leak stuff, because we're like, we also have labs. We don't want to talk about lab leak. We have all the labs. We're all doing the same stuff.
Just do it on an island, like Plum Island. You ever hear of it? It's a mile and a half off the coast of Long Island. And
that feels close.
It's yes.
Can you go further?
But it's a mile and a half. Like, I think it was like 3 blocks to the wet market outside of the Wuhan COVID laboratory. So a mile and a half of water, it's a start, at least. It's a start if you're going to do.
It's better than blocks. I wonder where we're doing it. I wonder where our labs are.
Plum Island, Animal Disease Center. Where it's happening? Yeah, this is a whole, like, if you want to go super tinfoil hat, you can go down the Plum Island tinfoil hat, where this is where they study foreign animal diseases on livestock on an island off of Long Island.
It's kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
There's stuff that you just want to be cool about.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you get into a mutually assured destruction loop. And like, you can bet that whatever China's doing, we're doing.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to, it's like, you don't want to get too high horsey about stuff.
I mean, we probably funded it too. So
We
mean, if
probably funded it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would be fine with just taking ownership of it and moving on. How's that for an idea? Like we all just take ownership of it and do better. But Plum Island, for those people looking to go down like an Area 51 rabbit hole, may I suggest Plum Island? I'm sure there's a Joe Rogan episode with somebody who
he's just asking
escaped.
questions.
I love it. Let's go. I used to love that series that Leonard Nimoy used to do, In Search of. Do you remember In Search of?
Oh yeah,
In
I'd
Search
forgotten
of.
about that show. Leonard. Oh, I gotta look this up.
So there was a show called In Search of, and they did 144 episodes, it seems, and Leonard Nimoy hosted it.
In Search of Bigfoot. Oh my God, this was like OG conspiracy theory stuff
Loch
too.
Ness
This is
Monster, all the classics, all the classics. But to have Leonard Nimoy do the voiceover was just amazing.
This is incredible. I want to go back and like watch all of these. The
It
Outer
was
Space Connection.
So great.
I'll tell you, man, you could have a really fun afternoon with a weed gummy in that show, Ancient Aliens.
Oh no.
On the that
What
is
is
on
this?
the History Channel.
Oh, the History Channel has the history of aliens?
The History Channel has a show called Ancient Aliens, and it's always the same wackadoodle guy who's like really tan and has this big mullet and is pointing out how like ancient relics all have the same alien designs. Yes, there
aliens,
it is.
there it is. Okay. Aliens. They're
It's
here.
incredible. It's just I'm
Or
just saying,
balloons.
put
Or
the
balloons.
hat on
For balloons.
and go crazy. Oh, they're got to be aliens.
Any crypto craziness as we round third base here? Always seems like it's like always good to round the show off with the latest in crypto nonsense.
Yeah, this is
When
a
does it
good
end?
one. This is a good one. When
Like how
and
many
how?
Thanksgivings have to be hijacked by crypto discussions and your crypto cousin?
I want Thanksgiving reparations from the crypto industry. Is what
For
I
sure.
want. Yeah,
Just
I want
please.
payback. Give me
Just
my.
can
I want my
get
time
back those 9 hours?
Dapper Labs CEO Roham Gary Goslu was reportedly Dapper Labs, by the way, is the maker of NBA Top Shot,
Yeah, very
Crypto
successful.
Kitties,
Yeah.
and the Flow blockchain. So like big
deal.
names that everybody knows.
They've done really great
Um,
stuff too. Like that NBA Top Shot was very successful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, Dapper Labs has raised money from A16Z, Kotu, Bond, which is Mary Meeker, NBA players like Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Josh Hart. There's a little note here that says "Go Knicks."
Oh, okay.
I wonder what that's about, and other athletes.
We've got we're on a
Anyway.
9-game winning streak right now. The Knicks are playing better than they have since I was in my 20s and Patrick Ewing was on the Knicks. So Josh Hart 9-0. He is the GOAT.
Side notes galore. Anyway, so it appears that obviously the NFT and the crypto space have been completely hammered over the past year or so. And again, circling all the way back up to the top, feelings are coming out in the press. Now, 11 anonymous current and former Dapper
no.
Labs employees are speaking out against its CEO.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You had me, once it was double digits, I'm like, oh no. I've been through this.
11.
When you get to
Yeah,
double digits,
11.
like, uh-oh.
That's not
It's
good.
not two.
It's not good.
It's not three people.
really
who
is not.
Were, yeah.
So
11.
in March 2022, Dapper Labs raised $250 million at a $7.6 billion valuation led by Kotu. At its peak, the NBA Top Shot collection generated $224 million in sales in the month of February 2021. But then, of course, so $224 million in February 2021. Those sales fell to $2.8 million last month.
Okay. That's total
According
sales,
to
which they get a percentage of. So
CryptoSlam.
if their take rate was the standard 20 or 30% that you see, or 20, 30% for like a really elite marketplace like App Store marketplace.
Right.
But let's just give them the benefit of the doubt, say 30%, like a really high one. That means they made $1 million or so, 900K, whatever. So
Yeah.
down
And
from
that,
90.
and when you look at this, monthly trading volumes declining 95% through 2022.
Sure.
However, apparently none of that ongoing decline stopped Roham from rolling on private jets, renting mansions at up to $300,000 a month, and just generally living the dream. He would routinely, apparently, rent these mansions. The private jets had become one of his priciest expenditures. The trips would cost between $60,000 and $100,000 per flight. When not renting a mansion, I'm just quoting from the article because it's just a corker. When not renting a mansion, the CEO often booked 5-star hotel suites that would sometimes cost as much as $30,000 a night, according to one person
Wasteful.
familiar with the matter.
Wasteful.
As Gary
Wait, he did this
Gosling-
as on the company or his own personal?
Oh yeah, he would. This is the most amazing thing. He considered these big ticket expenses integral to his strategy of cozying up to celebrities, and so they would be listed as marketing expenses.
Oh.
Yep.
So, okay,
Yep.
let's pause for a second on this.
Marketing.
Yeah. There is an instance where if you were at CES and you rented a suite to invite people by who are buyers of your product, and you'd want that suite to be impressive, right? We've all been to those suites at CES
absolutely.
where people
Or you throw a South by Southwest party. Right now,
Sure.
there are massive marketing budgets being thrown at South by Southwest.
Now, so if it was in fact that you rented a $10,000 or $30,000 suite one night, if 100 people came to it, and these were 100 buyers, and there was some sort of justification, okay, one night in the suite, 2 nights in the suite to set it up, and it's got a business expense, that would be valid marketing. So, just so we steel man, straw man, whatever, steel man it.
Of course.
But flying on a private jet, if you were flying Kevin Durant to a speaking gig to sell things, okay. If you're flying yourself, no bueno, not necessary. So you have to look at each one of these independently. This is why, as the CEO of a company, they nail a lot of CEOs on personal expense. This is why you got to make it bulletproof, right? Like, it's not the suite you're staying in. The marketing department rented it. So I'm just giving a little advice here. And it was approved and it was thoughtful and you had the sales that occurred because of it.
Right.
I've had this happen in companies.
You tracked your ROI. Yeah.
You track the ROI of it. And it was driven by the marketing department. So if the CEO is doing stuff like this unilaterally and it's for their room where they're staying, that's not good.
Yeah.
If the marketing department did it, so if you were on the board of this company, how you would evaluate it, or for people who are, thinking about doing something like this, just you have to be thoughtful. If you have shareholders, if you own 100% of the company, you can do whatever you want, as long as it's within the tax law. And the tax law would be totally fine with you having a party or marketing through a party, but not for your travel expenses if it was personal. And then there's just the optics. So once you have to explain optics, that's when you get yourself in trouble too.
Yeah, to me, this also feels like an interesting case of what happens when you get too much money, which I think we've talked about.
Yes.
There is, let's see, in a statement, Dapper said, quote, the notion that, this, 2 things about this. One, a lot of money came flowing into this company. And I suspect that there was no small amount of keeping up with the Joneses here, as they kind of say in their statement. They're like, we have and will continue to spend money on high impact events. Our business is rooted in entertainment and sports. You have a CEO with, who has a huge amount of funding and is at some point having up to, $60 million in trading volume in a single month. And is like, this is what we have to project because this is the pool that we're swimming in. It does make it is an interesting governance question because it does feel like there were a lot of really, again, very, very well-respected investors, presumably on their board. Dapper Lab has 5 board members and 3 observers. So
they have a robust
Roham
board.
Garagoslu himself, maybe a relative, and the observers are Chris Dixon of A16Z, Dan Rose from Cotu, and Fred Wilson.
These are legit investors.
Like
the marketing expenses here could be completely justified. Or if he was doing this alone, solo, they would be abusive and he could get fired for it. I think he seems like a smart cat. And I'm going to go with these are expensive things to do and they have bad optics, but especially if you had to lay off a bunch of people. So those people who got laid off who are trying to dunk on him, I guess, or whatever. Yeah, sure. That does look bad that you spent money on private jets. Yeah, of course. And that private jet equals somebody's salary or something who got laid off. You can kind of make all the jumps here. But if that private jet was for Kevin Durant and Steph Curry
Right.
to go do a speaking gig and sell those NFTs that sold $250 million. Yeah, 250 million worth of $250 million worth of NFTs, then it was worth it.
Also, it sounds like he was just a real jerk internally. Like it
Oh.
sounds like as things started to decline, I mean, when you look at why 11 people are speaking to the press, it's also that there became this really bullying culture, lots and lots of micromanagement.
Yeah.
That he would publicly shame people on Slack or scream at employees during video calls.
Oh, yeah, screaming no.
Et cetera, et cetera. As the market went down, he became harder to work with, it sounds like.
But just on this thing, what are the 11 employees hoping to get out of this? Is this just a slam piece? Or is it like, are they in a lawsuit?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just going public with it.
They're just going public.
Like
It's not
no lawsuit.
it's not as part of a lawsuit because, something unfair happened to them. There's no unfair labor practices here kind of situation.
We have no
And
idea.
this
I mean,
was
there's
from
no
the block.
lawsuit, like maybe yet. I don't know, right? Who knows? Maybe people are contemplating, but right now it is a slam piece in the block, potentially related to who knows layoffs, most likely. There's kind of a lot of. Again, we have a whole story arc here, starting at the top and ending here. Like we can enter a lot of slam pieces about media layoffs right now. Like we can just anticipate that there's going to be a lot of this because there's a lot of disgruntlement.
Yeah, when you're reading these things, I think always asking what the press is going to cover interesting stories, especially if there's conflict, right? Conflict equals drama. Conflict, sometimes there's something important. And if somebody was spending a sugar ton of money, that's also notable. So you have to look at it and say, are these anonymous and is there a point to this? Are they trying to get him fired? Is there a lawsuit? And in this case, I guess they just got a bunch of people who were laid off to talk about it.
It said current, they are
some of them are
anonymous,
current.
but it was 11 current and former employees, including both staffers who left of their own volition and those who did not.
Got it.
So
I would like
not
to see that number
exclusively
broken
laid off.
down. Yeah.
So
But
that is
anyway.
exactly what Nick predicted that you would say.
Well,
You'd be like,
I mean,
well, is it one person who still works there and like 10 who got laid off? Yeah.
and it's just
We
one of
don't
the problem with I feel like we've gotten into a dysfunctional usage of unnamed sources now, where I think like the unnamed sources kind of understand they get to be unnamed. So they have this in their back pocket as like, well, if I'm mistreated, at least I can be an unnamed source in a story and get my revenge. And if the person was fired for cause, or if they left on their own volition, or if they're still there, all that matters. And then what the motivation is here. Sometimes could come from an investor who's not happy, could come from a competing company. Who knows?
I mean, I think it is an interesting question of what recourse, if any, people have when they work for a private company and they feel that governance is failing. Like, so a generous interpretation of the people who are being quoted here is that they were like, this is terrible and people need to know about it. And we came here for equity and that equity is going to be wiped out by this banana spending. And we feel like, the investors don't know what's happening and we're trying to raise the alarm.
Yeah. If they were leaking that he was burning the money stupidly, I could understand that. Yeah.
But that is what they leaked. I mean, they also said that he was a jerk, but primarily this was about the spending habits, this story at least.
On boards of companies at this level, they present a plan. The plan, just so people understand, if it's compensation, there's a compensation committee. The compensation committee looks at everybody's compensation. So there's like a safeguard there. When it comes to T&E, travel and entertainment, or marketing expenses, the board would rarely double click on that. They would not say, oh, tell us what, I see we have $3 million in marketing spend this year. Can you break that down for us?
Right.
They would just look at, okay, what is the marketing as a percentage of revenue? Okay, we had 300 million in revenue. We spent 30 million on marketing. Great. 10%. Right. That seems in line. We'll trust you to spend it however you want. Now, in this case, if that 30 million was spent on a lot of private jets and parties and that worked for the company, that's all the board is going to look at, just so people are aware of what happens.
It's a really important insight. Exactly.
Yeah. Now they might, if they sort of report like this, say what's up, and then they'd say, okay, we spent 30 million on marketing, 6 million on parties, 24 million on cost per click ads. And they'd say, okay, so 20% of marketing was on events and 80% was on cost per click trackable advertising. Okay, that seems reasonable. So Who knows? We don't have enough information. But just so you know, the boards here are going to look at top line level items. They're not looking at people's expenses. You have to have a certain amount of trust with the management team. And if they want to go spend a sugar ton of money on, expensive dinners, as long as on a percentage basis it falls in line, that's okay.
There was a note saying too that they have a strong, the CEO told investors in a document obtained by the block, which announced that Dapper was laying 20% of its employees off, the CEO told investors that he aimed to improve efficiency and that the company is in a, quote, strong cash position with no outstanding debt. Again,
Fantastic.
back to that top line point. Exactly.
Yeah. So this is what this speaks to, Molly, is like what you're seeing internally could seem wasteful and crazy.
Right.
What VCs see is big picture. So you're looking at the micro and saying, I can't believe that we're spending this much money on catering lunch or this event or ferrying this celebrity around on a private jet or whatever. And the board is just like, you know what? YOLO. If the top line revenue is growing, the valuation's growing, and this is a percentage of revenue, it's when it gets off that people start going, wait a second.
I mean, you could see why someone would be asking these questions now when trading volume has declined 95% in a year.
When I have other shareholders in my company, I am just unbelievably cautious, maybe even to the point of paranoid about expenses. When you own your own company, which I do in the case of Launch and This Week in Startups, I don't have shareholders. In those companies, yeah, I can buy myself a business class ticket or entertain at a Warriors game or buy an expensive dinner I don't have anybody to answer to. But when I do anything at Inside, as an example, when I have shareholders in that company, man, I am not flying business class. I would actually literally pay as the CEO the difference between economy plus and business myself, and have done that kind of stuff many times. So my advice to founders is, when it comes to your personal travel expenses, the real flex is to use miles and stay at the W, and because you set an example for everybody in the company. And once some people in the company see you flying first class and staying at expensive hotels, they're like, oh, wait a second. We have shareholders, and then this kind of stuff happens. So be paranoid is my best advice.
Finally, I think the other really, really interesting part about this is this lawsuit, primarily because you have a judge here. So Dapper Labs motioned to have this lawsuit dismissed, the one in which they're being sued over whether they sold these Top Shot NFTs as unregistered securities. Okay. The judge, Victor Marrero of the Southern District of New York, denied the request and then published.
This is SDNY?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and
man.
this, I think that this particular, the piece of writing here in denying this request, sets the conversation about liability, I think, in a whole new direction. And it's fascinating. It's a 64-page opinion that went through the 4-part Howey test and how it relates to Dapper Labs. The Howey test, of course, determines that something is a security when it meets 4 conditions. First, an investment of money. Second, in a common enterprise. Third, with the expectation of profit.
Check.
And fourth, to be derived from the efforts of others. The judge did not say outright that these NFTs were securities, but he did say they fulfilled 3 of the 4 parts.
That's what I did. The first 3, to me, makes sense.
Right. And that what's also very interesting is that it might be a security because of this fundamental reason, and I think this is fascinating, because Dapper Labs owns and operates the Flow blockchain, the private blockchain where NBA Top Shots are traded. And since that blockchain's success is tied to the success of Dapper Labs itself, that's why it might be a security. The judge noted that if NBA Top Shots were traded on a public blockchain like Bitcoin, that then maybe they wouldn't be. And I think that is such a nuanced, crucial
this judge actually gets
reading going forward. This judge really gets it.
Yeah. This Howey test, is for securities typically, not collectibles. And so the collectibles industry is always like, oh, we're just trading, baseball cards. Literally, that's what Top Shot is. It's the digital version of baseball cards. And baseball cards go up in value and people buy them as an investment, right?
Yeah.
So it is an investment of money. It is a common enterprise. People do have the expectation of profit. And then this last one, to be derived from the efforts of others. Okay, well, when it's a company like Google, yeah, people are working at Google and you're collecting the profits of others. Here, after the card is minted, using the baseball card analogy, after the baseball card is minted, there's very little effort in a baseball card or a comic for the efforts of others. You might be able to argue, like, I don't know, if Marvel really invests in Iron Man a whole bunch, maybe that would make it, more valuable, I guess. So when they do, what do they call it when an NFT like the Bored Apes mutates, or they do a drop, right? They add to the value of the NFT. When they do that, they'll like mutate the NFT and they'll give you like
Kinda
a free
like a
NFT as
fork.
part of it. When they do those kind of things, that feels like deriving from the effort of others. So that also could be a rub here, is that if you do the thing that people find valuable about NFTs, which is those mutations and stuff, that would be one.
Well, and also
but here
that
it's the maintaining of the blockchain, the effort to maintain it.
Right. I mean, that's one of I think the three things. And exactly. And then the fact that it'd be like if you sold baseball cards, but then you also like the analog version or something, if you sold baseball cards, but then the only place that you could ever sell or resell or buy those cards was at your own auction that you ran.
Right.
That's different from like, I just sell a Top Shot, I could sell a baseball card out in the world and like buy it on eBay, sell it on eBay, sell it anywhere, sell it privately. Yeah. But if all of and then that auction house, the privately owned one, takes a cut every time you do something, then the only reason for those cards to have value is to enrich my private blockchain. And therefore you have potentially a security. It's just a really good job, the judge. People are catching on. We talked about with the crypto roundtable a couple weeks ago, how it seemed like Gary Gensler, it seems like the scalpels are coming out. Like regulators and judges and the legal system is starting to figure out how to scalpel out the parts that are no good.
Yeah. It's nuanced. It's certainly nuanced. And nobody thinks that Dapper Labs is a bad actor. In fact, quite the opposite. They seem to be doing things in a thoughtful way.
I would argue that 11 former and current employees think that they might be a bad actor.
Okay.
And this judge suggests that, in fact, they might be a bad actor. I'm just going to say it's not no one. It's not zero.
How many employees they have? Like 3,000 employees at that place, I bet. Probably over 1,000 at the peak.
600.
Okay. So 11 of 600. Statistically valid, I guess. 1%, 2%. Yeah, it's valid. It's a real number. It's not 2. That's why when I said it gets to double digits, it might have a pattern going on here.
Yep. It's just.
But there's no lawsuit. So there's no crime going on here. He made people feel bad. He was a jerk. And he spent money on.
Well, there's not a lawsuit from the employees. There's a lawsuit.
I'm talking about the first story.
Right,
back to the block story. The second one, he's in trouble.
Yeah. Anyway, it's like, listen, when the market goes down, these are the things that will happen. This is the kind of like
knives come out. Knives out.
The knives, yeah, exactly.
That's the glass onion. Knives out. Yeah. Knives come out. Who knows what the truth is here? Like it's probably a little bit of truth in each side. 4 former employees who worked closely with the CEO said, even as the bear market set in, Gary Goslow appeared to be more concerned with generating hype by celebrity partnerships than he did building new products, funding developers, utilize Dapper's blockchain features. So that's a strategy. Yeah, question.
More to come, I'm sure. I'm certain that this is not the last Knives Out story that you will hear.
I would be very careful with that Southern District of New York. That is.
I would look out for that. And I definitely.
SDNY is no joke.
I'm mentally bookmarking this public versus private blockchain conversation for the next time Sunny and Vinny are on, because I think that's a really interesting wrinkle.
I think they, just need to make it. They should make it public. Yeah. That's a tough one. I wonder what their thinking is there of why it needs to be. Oh, probably because they need to have controls. So here's where. This is where it gets dicey. If you want more controls to have more consumer protection, right? Then you're doing securities law. If you give less controls to not break the securities law, then the public has no recourse. Like when somebody loses their Bitcoin wallet, right? So this is
or something just won't be as valuable. You can make it more valuable by minting it on your own blockchain and controlling every aspect of it.
Yeah.
AKA sort of security.
Yeah. My understanding though is you could sell them on other blockchains.
I'm sure you could sell them on other blockchains.
Yeah.
I would just imagine that
The flow thing is controlled by them.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, if we're having a hard time thinking about what the right thing to do here is, like, I could see the SEC in Southern District also being like, huh.
I think it's just like don't you feel like what's really going to happen is we're just moving to a universe where NFTs have to have utility. They cannot just exist to trade and be a collectible, because that's always going to become some sort of it's to make money. Like it's an investment with an expectation of profit in a common enterprise. It would,
like
you just keep coming back to that every time. Like maybe your NFT should just be a concert ticket, and then we can avoid all that.
Super like what happens in art. It's long been known that some people use art as a way to, collecting of art seems to be a very, it seems like the IRS and people who buy art are well aware of the nuances in buying and selling art and taxes and the gains on them and inheritances. It seems, I don't want to say a loophole, but a loophole.
Well, it's not a common enterprise. There are lots and lots of artists. Right? Like, I guess maybe that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's why it's a 4-part test, I guess.
Yeah. And then there is the value of owning it. So I own this thing because I love it. It has nothing to do with taxes or money or donations. So I bought this for 30 million and I got a donation for 30 million when I donated it to MoMA and, whatever.
Sure.
It just
like
always seems to be.
Any asset of value can and will be arbitraged and exploited. And then the question is, at what point do you hit all 4 ticks, and then you're doing it to make money, right? Like, you could argue that all the behavior you described about art is as a result of art being an underlying asset that has value, but it was not necessarily created to be an investment with an expectation of profit. It was art.
Yeah.
But if an NFT was created specifically to be an investment vehicle with an expectation of profit that would then flow back to the flow blockchain and on and on and on, it's tricky.
Well, then the people buying the art from a free port, remember that whole thing? So you have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, I mean.
And then there's like the donations of it. Every time I talk to a rich person about art, my head starts spinning because they are doing so many different moves with their art that I'm like, this can't be legal. What's going on? Why exactly is all this effort going into art? It feels like more effort than the art is worth. And then there's the wash trading the wash trading that occurred in NFTs is definitely a real thing. Like where people were flipping them and then you come in and you're the 18th buyer of this, but in fact, you're the first buyer of it. The 17 people who came before you were just running it up to create a wash trading kind of.
Also you. They were your 17 wallets.
Sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
You arbed it up yourself, and now you're trying to find somebody to buy it half the price that you pushed it up to.
If there's money to be made, people are going to figure out how to make that money. At the end of the day, that's never not been true.
The utility of NFTs is the key here. If they have some utility, that would be good. More utility would be good.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right, everybody.
All right, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in. We're back. And hey, the climate show's back. Tell everybody what's happening.
Tomorrow, first edition of the Tuesday Climate Show.
Excellent.
We're going to break down some climate news, and then I'm focusing, at least in the beginning here, on some climate.
So, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜੋ 70 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਣਾ ਬਾਣਾ ਉਲਝਾਇਆ
लालगंज यहाँ से 80 किलोमीटर दूर है। वहाँ पहुँचा के तुम निकल जाना, तुम पे कोई चार्ज नहीं लगेगा।